generic statements, slang statements, whatever.
Cliches, slang, colloquialisms, regional affectations, any of those type of things. But interestingly enough, as the buyer, do we match that terminology? We can. We can. We have to be careful that it is not an unnatural affectation that we take. All of a sudden, we start saying things that are that seem condescending to somebody. Okay, but we do have to watch our language and how we work through that type of situation. Somebody else had their hand up, Justin.
The body language you could really see change throughout when Craig was first confronted. And I know it was like off the bat and it was scary, but there was this one spot on the floor, and for a second I wasn't sure if like Faith had fallen out of her chair and he was talking to her down on the ground. But as he got like more confident, then he started zoning in. But I think with that initial, like when it's brought up, that's when you want to portray that you understand.
If you're a buyer, I'm over here and I'm Faith, and the only time I actually hear "I'm sorry" is when he says, "I'm sorry that Ryan said this," but he's actually looking right here on the ground, as Justin said. What does that say to Faith?
Not really sorry.
It could be insincere. It could be, I still don't know what the problem is, but I guess I'll apologize for it anyway. It really doesn't solve the issue that we have, correct? Yes, sir, Mr. Coleman.
Just as far as you addressing the competitor, you did seem to cut them down a little bit.
Okay, this is what I wrote down here. Not to bash my competitor, but. You ever been in a meeting where somebody says, well, with all due respect, or this is the one I love, hey, no offense, I'm about to offend you, and don't take it that way. But when we say, and that's, I think, listen to, the body language, do we all of a sudden get in a defensive posture? We kind of get our hackles up a little bit, to use a colloquialism. Do we sort of start to take that defensive thing, and our first thing in being defensive is to deflect and say something about somebody else. Leslie?
Well, I think if you're the buyer and you want to start a more open conversation where the person you're asking is about isn't this defensive, you can, word it differently instead of saying, somebody told me this negative thing. They're going to try and deflect it or get defensive. You could say, I heard this, I wanted to, get your response, see what you have to say about it, is there any new information you could give me that.
Now, in a perfect world, we hope that that's a conversation we have, and the way that we get to that conversation, number one, is not just bring it on Faith 5 seconds before she has to do it, but number two is hopefully we have a relationship. We've established a relationship, and Faith doesn't want to believe this thing. She says, Craig, I really heard something I'm not comfortable with, and I know it's not possible. So can we talk about this? But it was interesting. Did you guys notice that? And again, this is because Craig was doing it cold. He wasn't prepared and a little nervous. He came in and introduced himself to Faith as if he had just met her. Did you notice that? And then he swung back around as it was going through the presentation as if we have some type of relationship. You know me, you know my product and all that type of thing. And so you're going to go two different ways. If you've just met this person, boy, you better say, hey, I'm sorry, and get to business really quick. If this is someone that you've known for a while, hopefully the relationship is open enough where they say, man, I heard something really upsetting to me. Can we talk about this? And Craig's going to be much less defensive if that's the way the situation is set up. Yes, ma'am.
So how would you suggest that he rephrase that? Because I kind of like how he turned it around into like that's our competitive edge against them, but how would you suggest it?
Well, the competitive edge situation. So when you look at the fact that he starts to say something is a competitive edge, that's fine. But in this situation, it's his opinion against Brian's. And so when you make a statement like that, even though when you have, some type of creative aspect of saying you're walking on air or something like that, that's something that we have to be careful of in sales. Don't engage in puffery. Don't expand it above what it actually is. Don't create an environment trying to make it more than what it seems. So the best example, and you you bailed him out by reaching for the shoes, okay? I was hoping he'd play it off as, well, I brought some shoes in, let's look at these. Okay, that was the hope. Yeah, I didn't want to set it up too much. But, I brought in some shoes, let's look at these. And not only did I bring in some shoes, but I brought in some research. I brought in some data. We are in consumer reports. You know that we put it up in consumer reports. That here's our testing that we see. I'm more than happy to work through this with you. I'll send you a couple more pairs of shoes. Will that just compound the problem? Or will it say, hand them out to other people? We'd really like to have your feedback. Can you be a part of this research that we're doing? We really understand and want to be a part of what you're doing, and we have the utmost confidence in our product. Does that answer your question? Okay, so how can you bring a little bit more detail, a little bit more research and data into that situation? Yes, sir.
I just want to point out that when Faith was presenting the problem, that she was, you could tell that she was upset, but it wasn't like she was to the point where she's angry and like directing it right at him.
Until she finger pointed him.
It wasn't like she was yelling at him,
Right.
screaming, it's like this horrible. She wanted to find out. She asked her like she wanted a solution for the problem. Not
Right.
just present.
And why did she get to the point of finger pointing him? If this would have been a real situation, why do you think she got to the point of finger pointing him?
Maybe because I didn't apologize.
You didn't say you were sorry. You left the emotion in the room too long. You needed to take care of that initial emotion and then move into these other things. Because when you've been upset with somebody and they try to give you statistics and research and all that, you're not listening to any of that until you feel like you've been heard. And then once you've been heard, then you can start to have a different conversation. Yes, sir.
Kind of going off that, I guess the way he answered her question was, I'll give you some more pairs of shoes, instead of taking it as, what was the problem, let's try and fix it. Which I think personally that would make me more angry than anything, just trying to
Placate you?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? If somebody just tries to placate you or kind of diminish the emotion that you have in that situation. It's problematic, okay? So it's a fine line of how we try to get rid of that. Will?
Could you potentially ask just how'd you feel about that? Is that something that you believed?
Well, you remember some of those questions we asked, how about, I understand that you have a problem. Would sending you a few more pairs of shoes as a sample to do some testing on, would that make you feel better about this? Because I'm confident in the fact that this was, if it did happen, I'm confident in the fact that this was an anomaly. Or I'm so confident that this is not true, I'm going to give you some shoes to look at. Yes,
No, just with that though, how can you trust? I guess it would be based off of the trust that if they send shoes that they previously had a problem with, why not they give you the ones they've already looked at that they know there's no problem?
Say that one more time.
Say these that were defective, so now he gets to go back and select 2 new shoes to give you. Would it just be a trust thing to I would be upset if they said that as an
How do
alternative.
I know that
I can go back and test
and test it
Yeah.
to make sure? Yeah, absolutely, okay? It's a trust issue. And hopefully they've established a trust where you can say, Faith, you know me better than that. I really want your business. You know how important your account is to me. You know how important it is for me to make sure that your customers are happy. Because remember, here's the other thing that I want you guys to remember. When you're selling business to business, you're not just trying to take care of your customer. You're taking care of your customer's customer as well. Because most of you are going to go into a distribution channel sales, and you're going to be selling it through, probably as a distributor or wholesaler, to a retailer, who then is going to sell it to the end consumer. Their customer is going to come back and be mad. And so that's going to make an exponential problem for you if you let that go through. So we need to have the trust issues there completely. Somebody else, a thought, something that you saw. Yes, ma'am.
Would it be appropriate to ask if you can examine the faulty product and potentially bring it back to where you're testing it so you can figure out what went wrong if something actually went wrong?
Well, absolutely. So, the way that the environment was set up for this role play was that she had just heard something. She hadn't actually seen that. So let's say that that's the straight way that it was played. Then I bring in some shoes and I'm like, Faith, I want you to touch and feel and I brought some socks along because I don't know if you're wearing heels or something. So here's some socks. Take a run, and you're selling to an athletic, apparel store. They're probably gonna hire people who will do that. And so, again, it's sizing up your customer, it's knowing what their comfort zone is, and you'd say, here's the shoes. I mean, I don't know what has been said, but here's the shoes, they're right here. So let's walk through this, let's see what it is, and walk through the particulars of it. So you're gonna talk about the features, not forgetting the benefits, talking about what's gonna happen with this, but right now it's a discussion based on features. I think there's some problems with some of the features, so let's go through that. But if there actually was a defective shoe, oh my gosh, let me see those. Let me see those. Now here's the thing you have to remember when you're in sales and this situation comes up. It is not a distribution problem. It is not a marketing problem. It is not a manufacturing problem. It's not our logistics people. It's not expediting. It's none of those. It's my problem. So I'm not going to say, oh my gosh, look at this. I can't believe that they, this nebulous they, you know who you always blame it on, they, them, okay? Or whenever you want to get your name out there, where's there? Okay, I love that phrase, okay? But I'm just looking to get my name out there. All right, there, it is, okay? But they or them, there's no they or them. There's me. I represent the company. So I can't fall back blaming somebody else because that leaves a bad impression with face. She's like, you don't stand behind your product? Why are you throwing your people under the bus? Even if it was somebody's fault, it's your fault. That's the benefit that you have as being a salesperson. Is you get to take somebody else's butt chewing constantly, over and over. You're the whipping boy, whipping woman. Okay, so don't say it was, well, obviously this is a manufacturing flaw, if somebody messed up. No, it's our problem. We need to take care of that. Any other thoughts on what we saw there? Yes, sir.
I was gonna say just to go beyond that, and if you aren't really sure what the problem would be, I feel like it might be better to, especially if you're looking to try to build a relationship, is to try to figure out that problem. Like instead of saying it's a distribution problem, say, well, I'm not really sure exactly what it is. Here's what I think it might be, and then going above and beyond and saying can I look into it more? Can we look into it more together, and then get back instead of trying to make a snap decision right there, because that might gain their confidence a little bit more than trying to overwhelm them with everything and making them feel like they're sort of dumb or don't know what they're talking about.
Should we talk them out of the tree by talking fast, loud, and technically? Or should we just acknowledge that there's an issue? Let me take a look at it. I'm going to make sure that this doesn't happen. Do we need to go into all the technical aspects of it? Because at the end of the day, do they care? Do they care the technical aspects of it? No. They just know this shoe doesn't work. Or they've heard this shoe doesn't work. So, good point. Okay. How long do we take with that type of thing? Any other thoughts on how these guys did it? Not too bad, right? Okay.
All right, thanks a lot for coming in, Keene. Big shout